Good morning, we're back up at the blacksmith shop today.
I don't really have much of a plan, but I do want to take this axe drift and round these corners up a little bit better. Right now it's making the hole very square. So let's throw this thing in the forge and get it heated up.
That's a little warm on the fingers. So I think while we're waiting for that drift to heat up, we're going to take this piece of mild steel and I think we'll make a wrapped eye axe out of it. Now it has a couple of holes drilled on this one side, so we've got to grind those out. Let's go ahead and get that done while the drift is heating up. So I think we could just use our angle grinder and go right across here and probably do pretty good. That worked about like you would expect. All right, so our drift is getting heated up. Let's pull that out and see if we can round up on those corners. Alright, so we got our piece of mild steel all cut up. So let's go ahead and get that in the fire, get it heated up. We need to thin it out a little bit. It's pretty thick. So it also has a little ridge in the middle. We got to get that hammered out flat. So let's get that in the fire. Also, by putting it in the fire, we'll be able to cook off that black paint on the outside. We'll have to get it really clean before we can forge weld it, but this is a good start. The forge is finally heating up nicely in there. While that metal's heating up, we're going to go ahead and work on our thing here. But I do want to put a dust mask on because you don't want to breathe this ceramic grinding stuff for sure. All right. All right, that's good enough. We just want to clean up those edges a little bit. That should make a much better axe eye. As I was trying to say before, you don't want to sand on these ceramic belts without a particle mask. You do not want that ceramic stuff in your lungs. It's getting pretty warm in there. So what we're trying to do with this square piece of metal or rectangle is stretch it out longer and make it a little bit thinner. And then we're going to wrap it around that drift we made and try to make an axe out of it. I don't know if that's going to work. We just keep heating it up in the forge and beating on it with a hammer. We'll take our wire brush and get as much of that scale out of there as we can. And we'll put this back in the fire to get hot. And now we have to clean up this axe blade part that's going to go in the middle there. So let's see if we can get that cleaned up real quick. All right, so we're heating up our loop, and we're also heating up the high carbon piece that will go in the middle. Then we're going to bring these things out, brush them real good, put some flux in there, and try to slide them together. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. So the idea is just to get as much of this scaling off as we can. Pour a flux on here, and it's actually a borax. We're going to do the same thing with this piece. Brush it the best we can, which isn't going to be very good. Put some borax in the middle. and try to get both pieces stuck together. Come on. All right, so we're going to put these together something like this. Just going to tap it in there with the hammer a little bit. About like that. And we're going to put this back in the fire. Get it up to forge temperature. Yeah, my confidence level in this is about 3 out of 10. We have our combined piece in the forge there, and all we're going to do is let it heat up till it's white hot, bring it out, and lightly hit it with a hammer, trying to weld those two pieces together. I think I'm going to turn up the heat on the forge a little bit, see if we can get this thing as hot as possible. So on the forge, we have a regulator here, and if we turn it open, we get more gas into it. And then up here on the top, I have a little choke to cut down the airflow a little bit, and we get this nice orange flame. And I think that orange flame will help keep any oxygen from being in the environment, and maybe make that forge weld a little bit cleaner. Probably not. We're just gonna let that thing sit in there till everything is white hot and no shadow lines between the two pieces of metal. We wanna make sure they're both at the same temperature and hope for the best. I went ahead and closed up the forge a little bit more to get more heat inside. We're going to let that cook a little bit longer, and then we're going to pull it out and do it again. It's getting kind of warm in here, so I took off my flannel. The forge weld seems like it's setting, but we're going to do this 2 or 3 more times just to make sure, and then we have to close down that eye and get that part to forge weld also. That's going to be a little more difficult, but you can see we close down the forge more, trying to get more heat in there, so give it every opportunity to come up to forge temperature. So it feels like that main forge weld is set. We're going to go ahead and heat it up again and start trying to close up the loop a little bit. And I don't know if I have the right kind of tongs to grab onto this thing, but we'll do the best we can. Again, we have the forge locked up super tight, so we get a super hot piece of metal coming out this next time. So as we were trying to close that eye down a little bit, we ended up shearing the forge weld on that high carbon steel and push that bit right out. The right thing to do would be let all this stuff cool down, clean it up on the sander, take it back to the shop and weld that bit in with a MIG welder, and then come back and forge it. I think that would probably work better, but I think we're just going to try to heat it up and go again. We replaced our gas tank. It was running a little bit low. And we have the forge all closed up with the piece back in there. See if it works. concentrating on getting it more better, hotter. That's what we're doing, hotter. Still not sticking. It seems like I got the forge weld to stick. We're currently drawing out the axe head, and we'll see how it goes. I've turned down the temperature on the forge a little bit since we're pretty well forge welded. I don't want to keep overheating the steel, but maybe we should keep that turned up. I don't know.
All right, we're going to say that's good enough for right now. We're going to go ahead and let this thing cool down a little bit and grind it to shape, and then we'll come back and recheck these forge welds. I'm still not 100% sure they're good, but we will see. So we're going to let this thing cool down in the forge. I have the gas turned off, but I think that what that's going to do is just allow it to cool more evenly so it doesn't put any stress on that forge weld. Until we get a chance to grind it to shape and check for cracks, we'll do it that way. Also, we haven't quenched this thing yet. We're going to wait till we get it ground to shape, maybe a little bit thinner, and then we'll quench it. All right, so we have the axe head cleaned up a little bit and profiled. You can see right here, there's the high carbon steel inside. There's a little bit of a seam. I'm thinking we should probably weld those up and then come back and forge it some more. You can also see, if I can get it in the light, there's a seam along the edge here where the mild steel meets the high carbon. And there's some dark lines inside that, which means it probably wasn't very clean when we got it finally to stick. Same on this side, there's lines pretty much everywhere. So I think what we need to do is take this back to the welder. We can grind right here on these seams, make a little V. Same along this edge, we'll grind it a little bit and fill it with MIG weld and then come back and forge it closed again. At this point, I don't know what else to do with it, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so I took a grinder and went right through the seam where the weld is going to go. Let's try to weld that up.
Probably wear my gloves so I don't sunburn my hands. I do it every time. Well, the other side, same deal. All right, so we welded that with a pretty high amperage to get good penetration on it. Yeah, that's what it's called when you try to weld. Penetration. Don't get your mind in the gutter. All right, so we got the top here welded up pretty good. We're gonna have to put that back on the grinder and get it knocked down. We also filled that trough, and I may have to hit this again. I didn't think it was that ugly, but it's pretty ugly. Got the other side. But we'll put this on the grinder and see what it looks like first. Well, we're back up at the blacksmith shop. Let's put it back on the grinder and see if we can clean it up. So the grinder we're using today is the Grizzly 42 by 2, 2 by 42. It's got the variable speed control. Seems to be working pretty good. Now we probably should change this belt out, but we're going to do the right thing and not do that. So what we were trying to accomplish is grind back all these welds, see if we have any delaminations. There's a little bit of pitting right here, but we're going to hammer that blade out some more. We're going to put it back in the forge now and do a little bit more forging, see if we can draw it out a little bit more. I like the way the eye is looking. That looks nice and clean. So yeah, let's get it in the forge. It'll take that thing a little while to heat up.
right, so we have a fully hardened wrapped eye hatchet head. Obviously we have some profiling to do on the front, get a nice rounded front on it. I went ahead and hammered the front bevels in so we don't have to grind as much, and just do some general cleanup, and this thing should be ready to go. I think that worked out about like you would expect. Anything I would do different? I don't think so. I think it's all pretty good. Maybe a little bit more careful on some of my hammer blows here because there's going to be quite a bit of grinding to get those out, but it shouldn't be too bad. All right, we have it mostly shaped the way we want it. Now we're going to go ahead and clean up all these surfaces with the flapper disc. Hopefully that'll work better. Now that's going to be hot when I pick it up. So we probably should grab it with something other than my fingers. Now you can see those hammer blows I was talking about. It's going to be hard to get those out. I think we're just going to leave them. Let's flip it over and get the other side while we're here. Again, it's going to be pretty hot. Let's get that out of there and put it in some water. Cool it down a little bit. Now we're going to jump on this 1-inch belt here and see if we can cut our bevels in. All right, I think we're going to call that done. We have both sides polished up pretty good. You can still see those hammer marks in it. And I have some weird looking grinds here. I might polish it one more time just to see if I can get all the polish marks going the same direction. And there it is. One small axe head. Still some imperfections along this edge. That's where the mild steel and the high carbon steel come together. Couldn't quite get rid of that line, but I think it's okay. I think this is just some hammer marks where we were trying to close that eye up. But the high carbon steel goes all the way back here, and it's sandwiched between the mild steel all the way to the edge. So I'm pretty sure we have a pretty good weld all through that area. And even if we don't, I don't think it's going to come apart. So that's going to be it. You guys get outside, do something fun, and come back and tell me about it.